Mark, you've picked out 6 baits here, 6 crankbaits. Each one is different than the other one for a variety of different reasons. Some are loud, some are quiet, some have bigger bills, some are smaller. Can you kind of go into detail about each one of these baits and tell me what it is that sets each one apart from the other ones and why you like these baits in particular?
Yeah, so starting with our mid-diving section, I'm saying mid-diving, they say 16 feet, but realistically it's like your 10 to, depending on line size, you can get it out to maybe 20 on some of these on a really, really long cast. But the DT is your quiet, it's your balsa. If you shake it, you're just hearing split ring shake. Whereas you get to the dual hardcore, it's got a weight transfer system in it. Bill shape is kind of the same as the DT, a little tighter. So it'll change the action. And then you go into the evergreen. Evergreen has the loudest noise. Decent weight transfer system in it. So it casts pretty good. And I would say I kind of rotate these 3 baits in particular in that mid-range just to kind of see what the fish are going to be feeding on that day. You know, with no wind, going with the balsa is kind of the play, but at the same time, you never know on the fishery if they've been seeing cranks. So you kind of decide on that. I rotate these 3 baits a lot if I'm going to be that mid-range. Then I'm getting to my deeper divers where you're looking at bigger bills. And the bill shape changes the action on all baits, as you can even see from this XD versus the DT. They have a wider bill, so there's more tail kick, more wobble to them. Louder. Cast great though. So that'd be your loud. Then you kind of move to the mega bass, kind of gets a little quieter. Bill shape different, tighter. And then you get to the G87, which has big bill, cup bill, but still at the end of the day is really a tighter wobble. Great weight transfer system, easy casting, casted a mile. And once again, I rotate through these baits more in that 20 foot to 25 foot, maybe even a little deeper if it's a long cast. You can get away with 10 and 12 pound test on these, on both of these. You go to Clear Lake, you need a bigger bait profile. You can run a 14 pound, you can run it shallow, shallower, 10 to 16 foot kind of in there, 16, 18 foot. But each one of these baits and why I choose them, they all have their own movements, they all have their own noise, and it's something you definitely need to test out when you go out to each one of these fisheries. Clear Lake's different than Berry, and water clarity, going with a clear bait versus Clear Lake where it's a little dirtier and you go a solid color. So you can kind of just rotate through that. But then I would say the next thing is really looking at line and looking at lines. What lines have a lot of memory, like stretch. I mean, you should only be cranking on fluorocarbon. My favorite is Suffix. Suffix Advance, J Fluoro. Both great lines for cranking. They have a lot of recoil, it comes back. So after 20, 30, 40, 50 casts with these, your line's not stretched out and maxed out, so it's not going to be as brittle, and you're still going to have like a lot of fresh line. And when you bomb out as far as you can cast with a crankbait, and you stick a fish as soon as you hit bottom, that fish is going to stay pinned because there's recoil to that line. If it's stretched out and maxed out, doesn't matter how stiff that rod is, you can be with a flipping stick and it's going to be hard to put pressure enough to put it through the fish's face pretty much.
Talk to me a little bit about how noise, because I noticed these lures you mentioned that some of them are louder than others. Do you think noise plays a role, and if so, how important is it? And where and when is noise a critical part of the equation when catching fish?
So noise, I would say I have not got down to a science why in particular works better in situations other than wind and no wind. No wind seems more favorable with no noise. Then you get into windy conditions where they kind of need something to locate with. But you are reaction fishing regardless. So some days you're going to go with a noise bait and windy, and for some reason it's not going to work. And you start throwing a DT around and it's dead silent, and you just start putting it on that line, that cast, that rock pile, and it's just perfect. So the noise will kind of change, and it seems like water temperature plays a role with noise. I don't know if the warmer temperature, the noise travels really well, so it amplifies it, or in the cold water, it's difficult for that noise to really be pushed through. So they don't hear it as well, and they maybe it gives more vibration when it's colder. So it kind of just depends on time of year too. That's why I kind of stay with a quiet, medium, kind of quietish noise, but still noise, and then your louder ones. And having these around, or committing to these in this fall transition, into the fall transition, this is where you can gain a lot of confidence. And I mean, the crankbait thing doesn't just die or even happen in the summer to the fall transition. I do this year round. Like, I crank in the middle of the winter when everyone's got a drop shot in their hand. I'm still speed cranking. I mean, putting it around fish, making them react. And usually summer to winter fishing, the bill shape seems like it plays more role than noise. It's just more of an action. And to me, tighter towards the winter time. So these two really shine in the winter time. Then in the fall, XD, Evergreen, the CR16. This bait is, for some reason, a really year-round bait for me. But the Megabass one does well. I mean, it's really hard to say like which bait really outshines the other. It just seems like a lot of effort and time you got to put into them. But going into this fall transition is a great time to practice and a great time to actually get confidence in it.
What's your name and where are we and what do you do?
My name's Mark COBEY. I'm pretty much only bass fishing, a little bit of striper, and we're at Fairfield. Fisherman's Warehouse in Fairfield. If you got any questions about cranking, let me know.